Hey guys, my name is Cami. I'm from Lincoln and I've lived here my entire life and I'm an only child. I've always been an active person, especially when I was little. I played volleyball, softball, and I swam. It was when I was in kindergarten that I started having issues with my eyes. So you know how in school you get eye and ear screenings? Well, when I had my eye exam, the nurse told me that my vision was off and that I would have to go see the eye doctor. On my way home that day, I remember coming up to the stoplight and I asked my mom why there was 4 stoplights when there were only 2, and why it looked like there was a giant cloud in front of them. I later found out that the reasoning behind seeing this cloud was due to a blood clot behind my eye. In order to find out what was causing this, I had to first see a specialist in Omaha at the Med Center. Then they sent me to 2 doctors in Kansas City, then to Iowa City, all the way to Boston to the Boston Eye and Ear Infirmary, and finally to Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore. After all of these doctor's visits, I was finally diagnosed with posterior uveitis. Posterior uveitis refers to the inflammation of the choroid, the back part of the uvea, not the uvula, because that's not in your eye. It can affect the retina and optic nerve and can even lead to complete vision loss. This disease is hard to diagnose because it kind of just comes out of nowhere. It normally develops before the age of 7 like it did for me, but there aren't really any risk factors for it.
Having this disease has definitely caused quite a few problems. My priority problem was associated with self-image because my uveitis caused weight gain and puffiness in my face. To treat this disease, I had to take steroids, and the side effects of the steroids made me very self-conscious. The steroids were always making me hungry, and therefore I was eating more than normal. I gained a lot of weight and became extremely reserved because kids were always making fun of me. This problem wasn't something that I could just leave in the doctor's office, so it greatly impacted me. The kids at school didn't know that anything was wrong with me, but it still hurt nonetheless. Another issue I had was that I was constantly missing school. I had to take summer school for 2 summers in order to catch up because I was either traveling to make doctor's appointments or I had to stay home because I was sick. Another big issue related to this disease has been the cost of treatment. As I got older, I started to realize how expensive these hospital visits, doctor's appointments, and medications were, and it was very hard to deal with because it made me feel pretty guilty. I lived with only my mom, and she didn't make very much money at the time. Therefore, we had to apply for Medicaid. We did have some financial help though. My grandparents helped pay for a lot of things, such as doctor's appointments, plane tickets, and travel expenses for appointments, and even summer school. My mom also had health insurance and secondary insurance, so that brought down the cost of things as well.
Because of these problems, I had plenty of needs to fulfill. The weight gain created a need for psychiatric therapy and counseling to help me understand what was happening. It was also very important for me to have support from family and friends while going through all of this. I missed a lot of school traveling for appointments, which created a great need for summer school, but then I missed so much summer school to see my doctor that I actually had to go again the next summer. All of the costs and financial burdens that go along with a lifelong disease created a need for financial assistance from insurance and even help from my grandparents. Finally, side effect management was another need of mine. I had both mono and pneumonia at the same time and was diagnosed with strep 4 different times. The Remicade really took a toll on my immune system, so I seemed to be sick all of the time.
I'm undefined. I'm just beginning. The pen's in my hand.
When I first got diagnosed, I took Remicade about once a month for 6 years. Remicade is used to treat several autoimmune diseases. Along with the Remicade, I took a corticosteroid, like I mentioned earlier. I also had to travel to Omaha once a week for doctor's appointments. There was one point where I was taking 9 different pills. I don't even know what most of them were for. Some of these meds gave me ulcers on my esophagus, and I even had candidiasis in my mouth at one point. On top of all of this, I had to have surgery in both my eyes, though fortunately not at the same time. This surgery was to remove the blood clots. After these surgeries, I was forced to wear a patch over my eye and was on a lot of eye drops for a while. As a young girl, it was extremely embarrassing.
I break tradition. Sometimes my tries are outside the line.
Because of everything I was going through, I saw a psychologist to help me work through the difficult times. I didn't really understand why it was me who had to put up with this disease, or why I needed to take so many medications. It's hard to understand as a little kid. The goal of all of these medications and treatments was ultimately to keep my eyesight, and thankfully, so far everything has worked.
You can almost taste it. Release your inhibitions. Feel the rain on your skin. No one else can feel it for you. Only you can let it in. No one else can speak the words on your lips.
My doctors and nurses became like family because of how much time I was spending in the hospital. I really think you can get through anything with the support of people who care for you and are willing to do anything to find what works. I was one of the first children to take Remicade for an arthritis health issue at the time, but there were those doctors that seemed more interested in using me as a test subject than helping me get better. Children's became my favorite hospital because it had such a great environment for kids, but my favorite doctor moved to Washington, D.C. to go to the Children's National Medical Center when I was 6, and I wish he would have stayed here longer. He even held a camp for kids with arthritis-related diseases that I went to. Otherwise, my mom and grandparents did everything they could during the 7 or so years that I was being treated. I always went to the doctor whenever I needed or when it was scheduled. I never missed an appointment.
Feel the rain on your skin. No one else can feel it for you. Only you can let it.
A lot of the meds I was taking had awful or painful side effects, and I hated taking them. But I always knew if I wanted to get better, I had to, even if I didn't always understand what they were doing for me. What I want nurses to know is that all patients are different, so keep a great attitude, get all the results and information you can to make sure you are giving the patient the best treatment possible, and the treatment they need. Second and third opinions were needed because my issues were so unique and unknown. I also think it's important that all nurses have the same knowledge, because I could tell that some knew more than others when it came to IVs and basic stuff. So learn as much as you can and practice it. Finally, strive to be the favorite nurse, not the nurse that the patient dreads seeing. There were some nurses that I was so excited to work with, and others that I hated. Now, basically, I live a normal life. There are a few blood clots they couldn't get out, and I have some scar tissue as a result of the surgeries. But now, I only have occasional appointments to watch for flare-ups. I'm a junior at UNL now, majoring in marketing and management. I still love spending time outside, and I'm the events director at the Daily Nebraskan. I appreciate the people who helped me through my disease so much that I've decided to give back to those with similar struggles by volunteering at camps, participating in fundraisers, and being a mentor for kids who have medical problems like me.
Live your life with arms wide open. Today is where your book begins.